All right, hello boys and girls, it's your buddy Mr. G, and today we are talking about mask and continuing with mask again today. So today we're going to make a new project. We'll be making this project here where we're going to make a genie in a bottle here. So we can see we've got multiple masks going on here in order to make this, okay? So we're going to get started here. We're going to jump right into this. We're going to go ahead and go to File. We're going to make a new file. As always in our class, we're going to call this my name, so I'm going to call it John Grosvenor.genie. And I want this to be an 8 by 10, so I'm going to make this 10 inches wide, 8 inches tall, make sure I'm in inches, make sure I'm wide, 300 dpi, and then I'm going to go ahead and create that file. Okay, now the first file I need, I'm going to hit Command Tab and go back over here. In our images file in your Google Classroom, we need a few files. Okay, first one we need here is this genie bottle, glass genie bottle. We're going to go ahead and right click on that, copy image, Command Tab, go back over, Command V, and paste. I'm going to get my move tool so I can move this around, and I'm just going to place this down in the corner. And then I want to shrink this down a little bit here, about like that. Here I have my example I've got here. You can see it's about a quarter of the size over here, okay? I'm also going to squash it down just a little bit because I want it to be kind of a squat looking bottle there. That looks pretty good. Maybe I'll widen it out just a little bit there too, okay? I don't want to distort it too much, but I want it to kind of be wide enough that I can look like I can get my smoke coming out of there, okay? Now, I'm going to zoom in here. So I want to get in, I want to mask out. What I want to do is get rid of this wall behind here because I want to put a different wall, but I also want to replace this area back here with this tabletop here, okay? So you can see I can light up this. It also sees the table there. It doesn't really see that trim there. So I'll go ahead and click on that. It's going to select that, okay? And I'll go ahead and select the bottle as well. Okay, now it does see these as two kind of separate things. It's not really merging them together. So I'm going to need to clean this up a little bit. And I'm going to get my lasso tool. Okay. And I see a straight line from here to here to here. So remember your lasso tool, if I just go and hold down Shift, it's going to make a straight line from where I start to where I am. I'm going to hit Command Z and go back. So I'm going to use that since this trim back here is a straight line, and I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to click right here. I'm going to hold down my Shift key, so I'm adding. I'm going to click, and I'm just going to add. And I'm going to come over to as far until I can to make a straight line there to grab all that. Okay, then I'm going to go from here again, and I'll come over here to the edge, and I will let go right there so I have a straight line. I'm going to go up a little bit higher there. Make sure I have a straight line like that, so that looks pretty good. Now I'm still looking here, and I've got this little bitty tiny. I'm going to zoom in here and get a little bit closer because I want to make a good clean line there across there. Remember, the difference between a good mask and a perfect mask is about 30 seconds, okay? I got a couple little parts down here that didn't get caught up, so I want to make sure I don't leave those out. So anywhere I see those kind of dancing little pigments there, I'm going to go in there, I'm going to get those guys kind of, oop, I got a little bit over here too, looks like I need to straighten that up, okay? And again, I'm just using the fact that I can draw a straight line with my lasso to make that out, okay? Once I have that, and around the top of my bottle looks really good, I am going to go ahead and create a mask for that, and then I can mask that up. All right, now that I've got a mask, I want to do a couple of things. One, I want to get rid of this top of this bottle here so I can put my smoke coming out of it. I'm just going to mask that out. I'm also going to extend this, okay? Let's start with doing the top right here, okay? So I'm going to get a brush, okay? Now I am using a Wacom tablet here, and I just have my little Wacom tablet, my stylus, and because it's pressure sensitive, I can use pressure sensitive brushes. So I've got my brushes here, and remember, if you don't see all these brushes, you can pull this out and make sure that you open up all of these folders here. Most of the brushes I'll be using in this, I'm just using the general brushes here, okay? I'm going to use a hard, sharp brush here because I got pressure sensitive. I'm going to go grab this one right here. okay? And I'm going to make it an appropriate size. That looks much too big, and I'm going to zoom into what I want to do, okay? So what I want to do is on the mask, remember if I take and I hit D on my keyboard, I'll get my default colors right here of black and white. X will switch to foreground and background colors, okay? If I paint with black, just like on my mask, everything that's in black is currently blacked out. So if I paint with black on my mask, I will see that. If I hold down Option and click on the mask, I can see what's actually going on. And if I paint with white as my foreground color, I can paint that right back. Okay, so what I want to do is paint right down to this lip here with black. So I'm going to click and get black as my foreground color. And I'm just going to paint kind of roughly here until I get close down here. And then as I get closer, I'm going to make my brush much smaller. And I'm going to zoom in a little bit more. And I'm going to carefully paint away the top of that bottle. Just going to go in kind of chunks here. If I paint too much, I can always come back and hit it with white. I'm just going to kind of cleanly take off that cap and paint away the rest of the information here. Once I get that, zoom out, looks pretty good. I'm going to hit Command S and save this to my computer, to my Google Drive, to my Drive, to my Cookie Fingers folder, okay? I'm gonna pass on that for right now as I'm still in the tutorial phase, okay? All right, now, next thing I wanna do is I wanna extend this top of this right here, okay? So what I can do is I'm gonna use the clone stamp tool for this part, okay? Clone stamp tool, remember, paints from, if I hold down my Option key, I can click in here. Let me get on my layer here. If I click on here and hold down my Option key, I set the clone source, and then it'll start painting from where I'm at to where I'm going, okay? Command Z, okay? However, I want to paint, make sure I'm on the mask layer, so if I click here, and I can just keep painting, and I can paint up here and paint more of what I want. That's not what I want to do. I want to paint from here to here, okay? So if I zoom in here, what I'm trying to do is extend this tabletop, okay? So I am going to get a brush, get my clone stamp tool. Let's see what brush I have. I have a hard round brush because I'm just going to paint. I'm not really doing any detail here, okay? I'm going to hold down Option. I'm going to click right here. I can use that. I can put that X right at the edge of the tabletop, and I'm going to as close to the bottle as I can without getting onto the bottle. Okay, I'm going to click and release one time, and you can see I've got that. Okay, now if I click here and I just start painting here, you can see it's not going to paint on here. One, because I've got a mask on here, and not exactly what I want. So I'm going to hit Command Z, but what I can do is I can paint from this clone source onto another layer. So I'm going to keep my clone stamp. I'm going to say a new layer. I'm just going to call this tabletop. And I'm going to do that exact same thing. I'm going to paint right where I was at. I'm going to line up right there. And I'm going to paint over and paint in that tabletop. Because this is on its own layer, I can even adjust it a little bit just in case you don't get that too much in there. Oops, I got a little too much there. Let me get my eraser here and I'll just erase that little bit there. Go back and get my clone tool. Okay, so that looks pretty good here. If it's a little bit off like mine is, see how I can see that's just a little bit off? Well, I can get my move tool, and because it's on its own layer, well, I can kind of line it up there till I get it to where I want. I think I'll put mine, let me go ahead and get my clone stamp tool there. Zoom out here. And I'm also going to hold down, and I'm just going to hold down my Shift key so that I can stretch this, and I'll just go ahead and stretch that on out there. like that. And if I need to nudge it up 1 or 2, I can nudge it up a little bit. If I need to stretch it out more, I can. So there we go, we got that part, okay? So I'm going to go ahead and hit Command S and save my progress again, okay? Now we're going to move on to our smoke, okay? So to get our smoke, we're going to go back over here to Photoshop, and we are going to go get our smoke. We need to get the smoke. Smoke is right here. I'll right click on that. We're going to copy image, Command Tab, Command V, paste that in here. Okay, now on our smoke, we're going to rotate this over, and I am going to put my smoke kind of like this right here. And you can see I can kind of position it on my table here so that it's kind of coming out the top of this bottle right here. Okay, come up just a little bit there. Like that. Okay, now I have this hard edge here where it's kind of clipped off here, so that's going to be a problem. I don't want to have it look like it gets trimmed. So before I go and I mask this all out, what I'm going to do is I'm going to make sure I'm on this layer. I'm going to get my clone stamp tool again, and I am going to hold down my option again, set my clone stamp, and I'm going to paint from here. And all I'm trying to do is kind of break up this edge, okay? I still have that really hard edge brush though, so I don't want to have that hard edge brush. I wanted something that's going to blend better, so I'm going to use this soft round opacity brush here, okay? So I'm going to use that, and that'll react to the pressure of my Wacom tablet. I'm going to zoom in here, okay? And again, my point here is to break up this hard edge here. Okay, now you can see I zoomed in here and I've got a little bit of lag here. You might have to zoom out or make your brush smaller if that's happening to you, okay? I'm going to set my clone stamp. I'm going to just kind of go from, let's go from right here. And let's go up here actually. I'm going to go and use this area clone stamp from up here because this edge here I'm going to try to transfer down to here. So I'm just going to kind of come down, and I'll keep holding down my option key and turning back up here to kind of break this up a little bit. Right up here. Once I kind of break that up a little bit there, feeling pretty good about that. I'm going to grab this kind of little wispy area here, and we'll add some of that right there. So when I zoom out, I don't notice that edge there. I'm going to zoom in. I kind of duplicated that same area a little bit too much here. And I still have a little bit of a straight area here, so I'm going to grab this area up here maybe, and I'll come up here like that. And I'm going to kind of put a little bit right there. Okay, I'm pretty happy with that. Like I said, my whole point there is just kind of break up that edge. Now once I've got that edge broken up, I'm going to zoom out. I need to mask out all of this white so that we can see the bottle in here and just have the smoke, okay? So there's a couple ways we can do this. We can grab our object selection tool here and see if it identifies. It's going to try to identify what's on here. You can see my little thinkers going on. It does see the smoke, okay? And I can go ahead and click on that, okay? But this is going to give us some problems because this has all these little negative areas in here, and I'm just going to get my lasso so this kind of stops popping up here. Zoom. It's got all these little like negative areas inside of here, and you can see it's not getting it very tightly in there, okay? So what we're going to try and do is select a different way, okay? Now this is presenting something that's, like I've told you before, things that are glowing, that are smoking, that are see-through, that are on fire, or fuzzy, are just by nature hard to select, okay? So what we're going to do is we're going to zoom out here, and we're going to hit Command D, deselect that, and we're going to try a different way to select this, okay? I'm going to select this by going to select, and I'm going to select by color range. Okay, now this is a helpful trick if you have something like this that's on a white background or is hard to select. and is on a single color. Okay, so I could try to select the purples, right? So if I select the purples, you can kind of see this here. And let's go ahead and give it a try here. We'll select on the purple here, and we'll give that a shot and say, okay. And you can see I've got a fuzziness meter. I'm going to take that fuzziness up to about 100 here. We're going to try it both ways. We're going to try the color. I'll say okay. And you see it does select it, but it gives me a lot. It kind of selects, it can't get all the intricacies, right? Because it's a color range. And even though I up the fuzziness, it still kind of has a lot of it missing, okay? So let's go and say Command D again, and we're going to try and select it again using the color range. But this time, we're going to select, and using my little sample tool here, I'm going to select the white instead. And you can see I got a pretty good selection, looks like around there. Around then, I'm going to take that fuzziness up to a little higher there, about 120 there, and say okay. Okay. Now if I go in here, you can see it's done a much better job at kind of isolating these little negative areas inside of here. Okay. So we are going to zoom out. Okay. So now I selected the white. I don't want to mask out the white. I want to mask out the color here. So I need to invert this. Okay. Because if I just went and made a mask on this like this by clicking the mask button, you're going to see it's going to give me everything but that. So I don't want that. Say Command Z. I want to select and invert the white and the purple first. Then I will make a mask down here by hitting my mask button, and then it's going to give me a mask so that I can see that I've got just that smoke isolated out. I've got all those little nooks and crannies are cocked out there too. Okay, after I get that, I'm going to hit Command S again and save my progress. Next part is for us to go get the face of the lady for the genie. So we're going to grab the face of the lady here, which is right here. We're going to right click on here, say copy image, Command Tab, Command V. We're going to paste her in here. Okay. I'm going to go ahead and click out the eyeballs, everything else, and kind of focus on her for just a second. Make her a little bit bigger here so we can see what we're working with. All right, now for this, in our example here, we can kind of see we just need her face. I don't have her hairline, kind of cutting her off right here, kind of at her jawline here, and just kind of her face to make it look like it's emerging out of this smoke here, okay? So to do that, we're gonna hit Command, we're gonna get over here, okay? We are gonna get our object selection tool, our smartest tool, okay? It's really good at picking out humans, so I'm sure it's going to make a really good selection of her. She's just kind of a white background, good contrast. Click one time. Okay, got a perfect selection of her hair. Okay, now I have a little bit of problems back here, maybe in her hair, but I'm going to be masking that all out. So as long as I have a really good selection around the front of her face, and I do, I'm not really worried about this back here, okay? So from there, I'm going to go ahead and make a mask by selecting my mask button down here, okay? It's going to mask it out. Now I'm going to get my brush again. Again, I'm going to get this soft pressure and size one right here, okay? I'm going to make this a little bit bigger. And again, I'm going to be painting on the mask, not on here. If you see the color black or white, Command Z, I'm going to be painting. If I see black or white, that's definitely not what we want to do, okay? Command Z, okay? I want to make sure I'm painting on the mask with black to hide this, okay? So if you see the color black, you need to get on the mask. Now again, I'm going to kind of go right along her jawline here with this soft brush. I'm going to make it a little bit larger here. And I'm kind of pressing kind of hard because I want to have this, but I like the soft edge on it here, and I'm going to kind of follow her jawline a little bit. I'm just going to kind of make her face kind of separate here so we can blend it into the smoke here, okay? Once I got kind of where I want it cut out with, I can make it a lot bigger. And I'll go ahead and switch to just a hard brush because now I'm just trying to paint her away. And I'm just going to mask out all those other bits that I don't need from behind so that we can make this work. I'm going to switch back to my soft brush again. Okay, now I'm going to zoom out here a little bit. I'm going to turn back on my smoke and my bottle here and my tabletop. Okay, I get my move tool. I'm going to get her face and I'm going to position it up here so that it kind of looks like it's coming out of there. Okay, and you can turn off and kind of look through here, but you can kind of see that we have a nice kind of puff of smoke, and I want her face to kind of look like it's emerging out of that. Okay, so I'm going to zoom in here a little bit so I can see what I'm doing. And again, with black as my foreground color, with the regular brush, with a soft pressure round brush here, I'm going to just kind of gently this brush a little bit. Let's go soft pressure and opacity actually. Just kind of blend this in a little bit softer here. Something like that. I'm going to move, there's a little weird shape kind of coming by her lip there. I'm going to back her up just a little bit there, so I like that a little bit better. Alright, and if you can play with it, you're welcome to play with the size, kind of use your eyeballs. Remember, your eyeballs are your best tool for making your adjustments until you think it looks like she is emerging from the smoke. Alright. Excellent. Once I got that, okay, now I am going to just kind of make this, her popping out of the smoke a little bit, I'm going to take her opacity, I'm going to turn it down just slightly to like 95% there, okay? Then I'm going to hit Command S, okay? Now I want to add vibrance to this because when I took her and I kind of put her under this purple smoke, it kind of dulled her color down, so I want to warm her color back up a little bit. So I'm going to make a selection and make a vibrance layer here. To do that, I'm going to hold down my Command key to select the area that the mask is there, and you can see it'll just load the mask there as a selection. And then I'm going to go to Layer, and I'm going to go New Adjustment Layer, and I'm going to make a Vibrance layer. Remember, Vibrance is just kind of like skin tone, and that's what it's made for. My Vibrance loan that I'm going to make, I wrote down my numbers here, that I'm going to take that Vibrance up to about 62. We're going to push it up pretty hard. I really want to kind of pop her out of that a little bit with that deep purple. Okay, looking pretty good there. Okay. And then we are pretty much done with that part. Okay, now we're going to go ahead and we're going to grab everything from the vibrance, the girl, the smoke, the tabletop, and the glass jar. Okay, and we're going to make that a group. Okay, I'm just going to hit Command G or hit my little folder down here to make that all a group. I'll call that group the Genie group. And then I'm going to hit Command S to save my progress. Okay, now I need to put in this background in here. Let me boom this here so we kind of have this like Persian to finish up. We need to put this background in here, add a shadow, and add a reflection. So going back over here to our image layer again, we need to grab this kind of Persian wallpaper design. We're going to copy this image, Command Tab, go back to Photoshop, go back to my image here. I'm going to hit Command V to paste my image in there. I'm going to make this nice and big as to stretch out behind here. Now this is going to be under the image group, so I'm going to drag it under there. Okay, and I've got, looks like I've got a little bit of problem here. I got to mask out a piece here or delete it here. Where is that at? Looks like that is on my layer here. So I'm going to have to go back on here and I'm going to mask that top out here. I'm going to use my square tool this time. I'm going to bring this up here on this layer and I'll just make a mask on that. Command Z. Let's go the other way. Just going to select my tabletop there and I'll make a mask to hide that little bit of white there. So I've got my background back here. It's a little bit deep and bright, so we're going to make an adjustment on that, okay? I'm going to go ahead and, because that's going to be on the entire background, we're going to go up here to layer. We'll do a new adjustment layer. The adjustment layer we're going to do is a hue, saturation, and value. What we're going to do is kind of knock this down in value a little bit so that it's not quite so bright. So we're going to go here and I'm going to take my, let's see, my hue to about -30, kind of warm that up a little bit. I'm going to take the saturation down to about -30. I'm going to take the brightness up to about +30 there. So kind of have that, kind of wash out that background a little bit there like we have in our example, a little bit like that. Okay. Now, I need to make a shadow and a reflection on my tabletop here. Okay. So I'm going to hit Command S, save my progress right there. Okay. I've got my Genie group right here. Now in my Genie group, I need to make a copy of this, okay? So I'm going to copy this whole group here. To do this, I can right click on here and say duplicate layer, or I can use the quick key of Command J. Either one will do the same. Genie group here, we're going to make this, we're just going to call this shadow, okay? And we're going to collapse this layer. So to collapse this layer, I'm going to go to layer, because I don't need all those. I'm just going to go and I want to merge group, Command E, or merge group there. So now I've got those merged. So I've got that there. Okay. Now I want to select everything by holding down my Command key, and I'll select that. And then I am going to hit delete. Right. Is this the way I want to do this? Is this the way I want to do this? Yeah, this is fine. Okay, yeah. So I'm going to go ahead and we'll delete that. So there's nothing in there. Okay, we'll turn off so we kind of have nothing. We just have the selection there, you can see. Okay, we're going to fill that selection again on this layer, on the shadow layer, with black. Now for our layer here, I'm just going to hit Command D to get rid of the selection. I'm going to make my shadow here, and I'm going to take the opacity of the shadow. I'm going to take it way down. I'm going to take it to about 30%. Okay, and I am going to get my move tool, and I'm going to drag it underneath the group here. Make sure you don't go into this adjustment layer, because remember that adjustment layer is taking our background. Okay, now I'm going to hold down my Command key and I'm going to skew that shadow just so it kind of makes a little bit of a shadow over here on this, and I'll kind of skew it this way a little bit too on the wall. Okay, pull this guy, just hold down my Command key and make a little bit of shadow on the wall behind here. And after I get that, I'll commit that, and then I'm going to go up here to filter, and then I'm going to blur it with my Gaussian blur. It's about, yeah, somewhere around 20, something like that. I don't want to sharp. I don't have any sharp lights in here, so I'm going to kind of soft blurry light, and I'll say okay. So there I have, hey, shadow back there. Okay, now I'm going to do the same thing again and make a reflection. I'm going to hit my Genie group here again, and I'm going to hit Command J again to make another copy. This time, I'm going to go and merge it again by hitting Command E. I'm going to call this one my reflection. Okay, now this one I'm going to grab and I'm just going to click on the corner here to get my adjustment to pull up here. Okay, and on this one, you see I've got my copy here. I want to flip it horizontal, so I have it upside down. Okay, now I'm going to go and I want to distort this, and I'm going to hold down my shift key this time. I'm just going to kind of squash it down, and I'm looking to make a reflection right down here, and I'm going to kind of distort it by holding down my command key and kind of stretch a little bit here. Okay, I'm just kind of seeing just a little bit of the face down here on the tabletop. Again, just kind of squash it down. It's going to be kind of a distorted little view on the tabletop is what we're looking to do. And then I'm just going to roughly draw around my person here, and with my lasso tool I'll make a mask of that. I'm going to mask out this little tail here too. Oh, Command Z, Command Z. Let's just add to this here. That didn't work out the way I wanted it to. That's what I want to do. Now we'll add a mask. So I have just kind of a reflection here like that. Okay, now I'm going to change this because that's a little bit too bright for a reflection. I'm going to change this to a different blend mode, and I'm going to go to lighter color like that. And you can see that's going to greatly knock it down there. Okay, and then I can take the opacity down to about 70%. I just want a little bit of a reflection there. Okay, all right, now at this point I am pretty much done with my assignment. I'm going to kind of zoom out, make sure everything looks cool. If everything looks all right, you're done with this. Make sure that you save this, and you are going to make sure you turn it in so I can see all of your layers here. Take a screenshot, Command Shift and number 3, and then go to File and Save a Copy, and change a copy into a JPEG to turn into your Google Classroom. All right, everybody stay creative, and I will see you mañana.